See, that's not unique content to Google, and therefore it becomes disqualified as a as toolage for ranking.
Welcome to today's spotlight. We have a very special guest. We have a Foster McNab of Profit Zombies. He's the director of operations, and so we want to welcome you. Welcome, Foster.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's great.
I know that you've been in the digital space for a while now. So I wanted to find out a little bit about maybe just your story, how you got started, and how you're kind of evolved into this director of operations. So
yeah, surely. So I guess where to start was back in September of 2019 when I was 20 years old, 21 years old, something like that. 28 now, so that'll put me in this space come September. 7 years that I've been fully in this business. I originally met my owner and, of course, best friend, Andrew Strodide, those years ago, just personally down here in Tampa when I was working another job. He ended up we ended up befriending one another, and he offered me a position where I started as a junior sales rep. And through the years, we grew the company to hundreds and hundreds of active offices under a myriad of services from, websites, digital advertising, consulting, so on and so forth. And by, following his very measurable line of success in scaling the business, I grew to be one of his most trusted associates. And now he kind of placed me somewhere number 2 in the company, trying to do everything that he no longer has the time for in scaling the business together. So, that's a quick summary of 7 years, but boy, we accomplished a lot.
Awesome. Now tell me what services are you guys currently offering there?
Yeah, it's kind of those 3 main prongs. So believe it or not, Profit Zombies digital advertising about 15, nearly 16 years ago, actually started as a website agency. So our owner, Andrew, will be turning 31 here on the 17th of June. And he started this business when he was around 15 years old, whilst he was working in his father's 2 chiropractic practices out of Missouri, essentially, Dr. Jason Strodide. So he started us as a website agency. Years later, going to conferences with his father, who was actually a pro adjuster speaker for a long while. He ended up going to those, and through his prowess in the internet, met a couple opportunities that then turned to dozens, then turned into hundreds, and we became advertisers about 12 years ago or so. And that's primarily our dominant space. But we've still stuck very close to our roots as web designers and builders, building not just gorgeous sites, but high ranking and converting sites. And within both of those businesses, of course, to be successful yourself, find trust in your clients and make them successful, you can't just put names and numbers on a spreadsheet. You have to be able to guide people, which is our third, I'd say most important rung, which is our ability to consult people, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys have multiple things. I know you guys have, so you guys are doing websites, digital advertising. I know you guys have some type of AI tools that you guys use as well.
Plenty of them, for sure.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's though relatively smaller to everything else we do have a custom branded AI tool. It's called Lead Slayer. We realize there's a lot of people that we meet out there that have existing advertising relationships, and they don't want those relationships to end. They're happy with what they have, and they might not switch over to us immediately or ever. And so we were curious if there was a way for us to help those people, because what is every business owner and their, if applicable, staff limited in? It's time, and of course, like wherewithal, or I guess willingness to want to endlessly stay in touch with leads or reactivate leads. So we have an AI that we even use ourselves internally that basically keeps you top of mind with your new to pre-existing older leads, staying in touch with them via text message and hosting, I guess, very real conversations over text message. For example, should someone mention a trip to Jamaica, it will ask them if they're anticipating it or how that trip was once it passes. So it contextually converses with people until a human knows it's time to step in. Very cool service. We could do it for anything.
Nice. Okay, great. So you have a little bit of the AI, you have the digital advertising. I know that you guys have started with the websites. Like you said, that's like your roots. What do you think the biggest challenge is right now with people and their websites, specifically medical practices?
Oh, absolutely. There's, I guess, two or three mistakes or stories that I hear from people. Mistake story number one, and I try to be really careful when I use that word mistake, right? But story number one is that people build a website themselves, right? That could cost you $50 a month. It could cost you $200 a year. You're talking Wix and Weebly and you name it, Squarespace, GoDaddy, right? The point of those tools is that's for the person who just wants to have a website. And there's nothing wrong with just having a website. Having a website is better than having no website. Although, not to get too sidetracked, there's a good argument that no website's better than a bad website. And sometimes people's ability to design or time to design just doesn't really exist, right? So you have this site that you pay almost nothing for and you get absolutely nothing from it. Of course, sites like Wix and Weebly and GoDaddy and Squarespace are happy because if they do that 500,000 times, times $50 a month, then they got their keep and they know your expectations are very low. The other mistake people make, or story that I hear, is that people hire a company for somewhere between $150 to $300 a month, albeit I'm sure if we all end up speaking individually, you'll find our prices are sometimes even beneath that for what we're able to do for people. But they'll pay these amounts to folks every month, these official agencies, not to name any, of course, but they're template sites. And so there's a couple points in this. Number one, your site looks like every single other medical office's site, right? Everyone's site looks the same. I mean, I've had hundreds, if not over 1,000 of those calls, and I can tell right on the dot, you're a blank company site. I've seen this before. And no one really cares if their site really looks the same as long as it looks decent and gets you leads. And that is, I guess, the wraparound of all of this is sitting in your chair as a practice owner and you get an inkling of a thought that you're ready to make more money. You're ready to make thousands more. And so you jump on a consult with someone such as myself sitting in my chair. What's the cost normally to make thousands of dollars? Equitably, thousands of dollars is that cost. And so, through our prowess over a decade in doing this, we've found really it's the only thing in our toolkit that could cost people a couple to a few $100s a month that could actually make them thousands of dollars. And so the loss that people are experiencing isn't really representation or the menial amount that they're already paying, if nothing at all, or something at all. It's the opportunity loss that their site isn't doing anything for them or what it could be doing for them, right? And there's so much that plays into that. What actually determines people's rankings is things that we'll certainly get into.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that they either don't have a website, which that could be okay, right? For some people. Some people have a website, but it's, they're using those kind of like cookie cutter platforms. And then, or they're using some agencies that are then creating a one-page, chiropractic website that all other chiropractors basically copy and paste. They just change the name, maybe change the colors.
Yeah, and the logo, swap services in and out. And it's very, I don't know, there's a fancier way to put it, but it's very blah,
Right. Right. Yeah, no, I get it. I've seen some of the websites. I've looked at some of the stuff. Now, what would you say would be, what's your difference? Like, what makes it different between if I went with you versus maybe somebody else, some of those other companies? What would you say is the primary difference between you and another company?
Build, understanding, and service. I don't know. I always try to put things into three if I can. So site build is one thing. Everyone here has heard of WordPress. Some people have heard of Elementor. I can't speak on these other companies, though I'm sure with 5 minutes of research, I could find what they use to build sites. But let's say it's something like Gloss Genius or Wix or GoDaddy, these sites where you can build your own site. I'm sure that those builders haven't changed to Google's always changing standards. Now, Google wants to be able to read your site so it can properly index you and then properly reference you, right? But if your site's not built to Google's algorithmic standard of, is your site legible? Does it load fast? Can it understand what track you're on so it understands what track to put people on that are searching for services and terms like yours? I guess what I'm getting at is site build has a lot to do with your ability to rank for what you want to rank for. The builders haven't been updated in a long time, so it's not to Google standards, so you don't rank as well as you could or should. Same thing with these template companies. They built their template a long time ago. They sell it because they're happy and they charge people a really cheap and fair rate. And so why would they change it? And so those standards change. The template sources of solution do not. And so you see these, I don't know, it's like a 2012 car on a 2026 track, you know, going against other 2026 cars. You're just not moving as fast or efficiently or competitively as you should. So we custom code our sites. We don't use WordPress. We don't use builders like Elementor. Our site is literally built line by line by line, utilizing code through highly specialized team members, which gives us that edge. Google's able to read your site properly. The other one is site size. So, and then again, I'll talk about this more on the webinar, but if you're watching this now and then you attend the webinar, you'll hear some of these points expanded upon. Site size is a matter of debate. Some people think big sites are hard to navigate or pointless or something like that. And I think that's an argument coming from someone who doesn't want to build big sites and wants someone to say yes to something small. I'll put it this way. More pages equals more words equals more keywords equals better SEO. The more redundant and expansive your site is, the more obvious it is to Google, again, being read properly through your site build, that it makes to reference you, essentially. Tons of other tools like custom blogs, review pieces, building not just services page, but also conditions pages. For example, people don't just search chiropractor, they search back pain, right? There's other really cool things I'll show on the webinar, like areas we serve. Like, let's say you're in Tampa, Florida, like I am. Let's say your site right now says Tampa Chiropractor, and every time there's a location, it only mentions Tampa. What about the submarkets like Oldsmar or St. Petersburg or Temple Terrace or South Tampa? If your site doesn't mention submarkets, well, then someone in Temple Terrace will just search Temple Terrace Chiropractor, and then why would you show if you don't even mention it? So we build submarket pages, and there's a lot to it because, you know, a lot of folks aren't in places like Tampa, major metropolitan areas where people like me living in the city don't want to go more than 15 minutes because everything's in 15 minutes. There are places like where I grew up in North Georgia where it was 30 minutes to the grocery store. People out there drive, you know?
Yep.
We're willing to. It was 2 hours, 3 hours to a football game, hour and a half to the outlet mall. You know, it's just different. So bigger sites are better. And then, of course, our ability to consult, because now you have this ability to gain access to a company that would build anything for you. But maybe you don't know what should be built because it's not been your job. And so it's our job to help you make that decision, what could or should be there so you get more from your site.
Awesome. So it sounds like you guys are just taking it a step further to understand where the client actually is, making sure that the SEO and the things that need to be there are there. And also just, you know, like you said, the submarkets. I'm not sure about other platforms or websites or these agencies, but it sounds like you kind of have like this well-rounded method in which how you look at the client, what you build for them. And then let me ask you this. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this, maybe not like before, but you're not just copying and pasting a website.
No, definitely not. Every site needs to be custom. Like a small example in terms of customization, in terms of like verbiage and toolage that Google sources to determine if you're unique. That example would be a blog, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of companies will give you a blog, but there's two mistakes. I guess there's three mistakes they make. Number one, there's no blog. Number two, they give you 10 blogs, and that's your whole blog, something that was uploaded 10 years ago or 2 years ago or something like that. And now there's no new content being added to it unless they upsell you, right? And then number three is that you get a new blog post maybe every week, every other week, every month, something like that. But it's the same blog everyone else is getting every week.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's not unique content to Google, and therefore it becomes disqualified as a as toolage for ranking, essentially. So what we do, and again, we'll feature it more in the webinar, but we do a weekly blog post custom to our offices. Like we have an awesome Dr. Lopez in San Diego, Point Loma area, over 500 Google reviews, been in practice for a long time. Ranking was terrible, and he agreed with us, which is why I moved forward, that his site could look better. And now we have a blog, which is really an SEO tool, guys, that mentions like Mission Bay Park, which is north of him, or military family members because it's a big military town, or local zoos or events or schools or sports teams. Custom blogs that naturally and organically flow within the content that we promote for you within your site. Give you a higher probability of your SEO doing the work you want it to for you. And I guess that plays within everything else in the site. And then, of course, if there's a direction you want to take certain verbiage, like maybe you're not just a chiropractor, you're a Gonstead specialist, then we can gear the entire site within that, or maybe you have your own story. It's very easy for us to do because we've been doing it for a long time, and not just site designers, we're advertisers, so we're pretty good at copywriting.
Awesome. Good. So it's like you're using all the tools to really help these medical practices, come into the 2026 fast lane. Basically, that's kind of like the gist that I'm getting here. So let me ask you a question. What would you say is like, what success story do you have, or, like what are your clients saying when you are maybe either revamping something for them or maybe building them something from scratch? Maybe they've not had a website, but what are your clients saying when you guys are doing stuff like this?
There's maybe like 2 or 3 things that people really care about. They want to look good, they want to rank good and therefore make money, and they want good service, right? So sometimes people are sold on a site because their previous one is ugly, then they sign up with another guy or some company or agency, and it's no better, or it's so marginal it's not worth the extra money you spent. We encourage and beg our people to run us up a tree until they're absolutely in love with it. Because really, guys, like, we're building these gorgeous sites because we want you to be a client as long as you're in business. And then we advise your business to be our client, essentially, right? Sorry, I'm getting a low phone call here. I'm trying to slow it out. 2 seconds. So sorry about that. The second piece is the ranking, right? There are countless stories of people where I'll run a report, and I'm going to run some sites for attendees on the webinar through these tools to see how they rank. And they're ranking like 15th or 20th, or it says 20 plus because they don't even exist for chiropractic, massage, red light, shockwave, neuropathy, things like that. Most people's ranking isn't good, to be real, so fixing that is very easy, putting them on the number 1 to number 5th spot, somewhere between there organically without having to pay Google. And then the third rung, like I said, is service. So a lot of folks will sign up with a company who seems really great, and as soon as you sign and pay, they're impossible to get a hold of, extremely slow with edits and changes. But because we have such an expansive team, we're able to make changes happen like within a day or two. Like, we had a guy send us 10 pages of edits to his site on a Friday a few weeks ago, and by the end of day Monday, they were all implemented and completed. So speed of service, quality of service is, I think, one of the main reasons people like working with a company. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate you, spending your time kind of giving us a little bit of insight into maybe some of the stuff like the mistakes or the missteps in some of the medical practice websites. You've already kind of mentioned it, but I want to invite everybody on June 24th, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Foster will be there performing SEO and live website assessments. So if you want to be there to ask him questions, but if you want to be there to actually get your site looked at right then and there, please register. Now, Foster, just tell us what's a reason they should be there?
I mean, I'd say this. 100% of people I talk to, the very first thing I say to them is, are you getting leads from your website? Not calls from Google, but are you getting leads from your website? If it's yes, how many do you think it should be more? If it's no, that's a very easy conversation. Number 2 is, do you like what your website looks like, or is it at least worth what you're paying for? That's all that really matters. And so if you don't have absolute certainty and you love your site and you get plenty of leads from it, I guess the only other reason you'd show up is you just want to affirm that by having me run your site through some tools, which I'm happy to. But most people don't like their site. Most people don't get leads, and they're looking at that to be fixed. And it's so easily fixed because websites don't cost thousands of dollars. It's very easy to fix, and we can build a site in 2 to 3 weeks. So would love to have you there. I have so much to share.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here. Thanks, Foster. Appreciate you. And we're looking forward to the webinar on June 24th.